All right, let's jump right in. We're going to tackle a really fundamental question about a complex family structure. We're looking at polygyny, but through a very specific and honestly crucial lens: the children.
So the core argument from our source is pretty simple, really. If you believe the biological purpose of marriage is to have kids, then you have to look at any marriage structure through the lens of parenting. It all comes down to the children. So how does polygyny stack up?
Well, to get to the answer, we first need to get one thing straight. Polygyny isn't just about one man and multiple wives living in a bubble. It's part of a much bigger social structure. And historically, that structure looked completely different from how most of us live today.
For most of human history, society was tribal. This community-focused way of life was kind of the natural habitat for polygyny. It wasn't just something that happened, it was the norm. And that context, yeah, it's absolutely key to understanding how it all worked.
Okay, so let's dig into this first model. You can think of it as the original blueprint for how polygynous families were built.
I mean, we've all heard this saying a million times, right? But here's the thing. According to our source, this wasn't just some feel-good quote. It was the literal functional reality. The entire community was actually built around this idea.
And check this out. Everyone knew their role. The men, they were the providers, the protectors, often gone for months at a time for trade or fighting. This meant the women, well, they ran the show. They farmed together, they managed things together, and most importantly, they raised all the kids together. And the older men who stayed, they were the community fathers, the role models for every single kid in the village.
So here's the bottom line. In this village model, a kid's biological dad could be gone for ages, but the kid was totally fine. They didn't feel a lack of care or direction because they were surrounded by this whole team of mother figures and had constant guidance from the elders. There just wasn't any room for neglect to creep in.
And this really shows the massive shift, doesn't it? We went from total community support and shared responsibility to being on our own in isolated houses. The father's job changed from this distant provider to a hands-on everyday parent. And that sisterhood that was forged by women surviving together, for the most part, that's gone.
So, let's fast forward. What happens when you take polygyny out of that village context and try to plug it into the modern family? Well, that's where things get complicated. A whole new set of challenges pop up.
So what even is the nuclear family? It's basically one little self-contained unit. It's isolated. And because of that, the expectation, the need for a dad to be physically present and hands-on is way, way higher than it ever was before.
And right here, this is the central conflict. What happens when one man has to split his time between multiple, separate, isolated family units, and each one of them expects and needs a present, hands-on father? You get this potential chain reaction. The father's time is split, right? But now there's no village to step in, no community of aunts or elders to fill the gap when he's at the other house. For a kid, that absence feels huge, and it can easily lead to feelings of neglect or even abandonment. That safety net, it's just gone.
Okay, so that sounds pretty rough. But the source doesn't just leave us with the problem. It actually points to a solution, and it's a big one. If the problem is the missing village, well, you have to consciously go out and build a new one.
So how do you build this neo-village? The steps are pretty clear. The wives need to live super close to each other. The homes have to be interconnected, not like separate islands. This way, all the children can grow up together as one big group of siblings. And here's the absolute game changer. The kids have to have free and constant access to their dad, no matter which wife's home he's in.
And this all brings us right back around to the foundational idea of this whole argument. The entire structure, everything you build, has to be focused on one single, non-negotiable priority.
The source is really emphatic about this. Since the biological point of marriage is procreation, the kids are the main event. So their well-being isn't just a priority, it has to be the priority. It's the #1 job for everyone, the husband and all the wives together.
So when you boil it all down, the ultimate takeaway is this. You want to know if a family structure is successful? You just have to ask one simple question. How are the kids doing? The whole setup has to be optimized for their well-being, above everything else.
And that kind of leaves us with one final big question to chew on. In our modern world, which is so built around this idea of the small, isolated family, is this solution, recreating the village, even possible? Is it practical? The source gives us a blueprint for sure, But whether that's a path people can actually follow today, well, that's the real question, isn't it?